also indicate at the moment there's definitely a compound engine. And the compound engine has two cylinders, a high pressure cylinder and a low pressure cylinder. And the purpose of that is to make better use of the steam. Because on the single cylinder engine, there is still a lot of useful energy left in the steam as it goes up the chimney. Because with the compound, that useful energy is used in the low pressure cylinder. This is a Showman's engine built in the 1994. The Firestone show. And the Firestone is the forerunner of our modern day cinema. Not only did the engine follow the Firestone show from fairground to fairground, but because it's got a dynamo on the front of the engine, you can't really see it because it's covered with a tarpaulin at the moment. But the dynamo provides electricity, and that can be used to power the Firestone. Later on this evening, the engine will be going in front of the beer tent, and he'll put the belt on and the pretty light bulbs around the canopy, and will be generating down there. In the working day, the engine doesn't have a lot of light bulbs because that will be wasting power. All the power will be needed to work the ride or the entertainment that goes with the engine. So the next one coming into the ring, we don't see that often. Down in the county for several years, there's only rarely make the appearance at rallies. It comes from the far-flung ends of Cornwall down at Threshing way. It's a Garrett tractor called Leslie, owned by Colin Savage, and it has the distinction of being one of the few engines who have completed Showman to Land's End. Now the tractors were the manufacturer's response to the increasing legislation which were being forced onto engine owners. In the early days, you had to have two people driving an engine. You also had to have one man walking on in front giving a red flag. And of course, the legislation set weight limits on the engine as well. I think when this through the Cornish comes around, the Aveling is a shiny brass plate on the front, and it gives the weight of the engine. And in fact, the people they could definitely make their engines down to lessen the effect of taxation. And one answer was to create a formation of a steam tractor, which then could be driven by one man. It's got wide back wheels so that it could travel on the softer fields up in the plains and hopefully not sink. All our engines are fitted with rubber tyres. Quite often they come from agricultural tractors and fat rips. Enterprise as it's going around is in its original form with a straight wheels. Pretty hard going when you're on today's modern road on straight wheels, and that's some of the reason why a lot of owners have fitted fat rips. In fact, Challenger coming around here, the big Showman, that one has now been fitted with the same sort of tyres. Hopefully we get all of them, and we can notice the different sort of tyres on that engine. On the Challenger's roof, there is a big chimney. You've already said that some of the militaries use an extension chimney to increase the draft. But the extension chimney on Challenger's roof is only for use in the fairground So it tries to keep the smoke up above the edge of the puppet. Doesn't always work, but it's a nuisance to try. Then the pyro roller coming along here now, this is one of the newer rollers, one of the 1930s. A lot of these rollers were also equipped with power spraying equipment. The move from stone roads to tar meant that you had to have different bits of equipment on the roller. And so the power spraying equipment was figured out what to use. Another evening at Camborne Trevithick again. We consider this as John Dolly. Some of these engines have a roof or a canopy, others don't. Always the gates to cope with the situation. If you've got a canopy, at least it keeps you a little bit cleaner than all the soot and bits and pieces coming from the chimney. And there's a little bit of a help if it's raining. It does mean that you can't see your chimney, you can't do what the fire is doing, you can't see the safety valve at all. This is the first gallop, the second gallop coming along, we have taken already. So this one started working like a steam roller. But a lot of these rollers got converted into Showman's engines in their days. Some of the art interpretationists are not exactly in favour of converting the rollers into Showman's, but certainly if that is the case in their working day and they found another means of earning a living, they would have converted the roller into Showman's. Depending on the market coming in. Lived in the county for a long time. Back as long as I can remember. Marshall agricultural engine for Little Woodbury, owned by the James family of Aveling and the Cornwall. Minus its cladding at the moment, so it's got a bare boiler. Generally, there are boards or poplar timber wrapped around the boiler to act as insulation. Poplar is the wood that's generally used because instead of catching fire, it smolders. So if you're working your engine really, really hard, it's unlikely you're going to catch the boiler racking on fire. Another Aveling portable roller coming along, in disguise, shall we say, because it's a maroon colour. As 95% of all Avelings are Aveling green. This is a compound engine, so 2 cylinders. And the compound makes much better use of the water and coal. There's a lot more economic. So this guy always comes in, sneaks in every time. He shouldn't be here, but he always comes in. This is Andy and his motor roller. Well, internal combustion has to take the place of steam. And this is the follow-on of the steam roller. Single cylinder diesel engine, working this one. Though strictly from steam engine, it's a nice comparison with the steam engine that are in the road. Here's another Cornish engine coming in. That's all shuttle work. named Don Juan. How we got that name I don't know. It was new to the Operan Station Steam Flashing Company. From there I think it was with that Bill Weeks at Onward and Walker. And then it went up to somewhere. Its reservation life was converted to a show called Old England. That never lasted very long. It worked very well as a service before. Now it's come back with the Simmons family of Tredinnick, and it's back to its agricultural specifications. Now we have a little half-size engine coming around with the canopy method with John Murphy's Crown Peacock. Now this is a half-size version of either with now or with post. We've got three sister engines here with John Murphy. A lot of these engines will be fitted with a crane at the back, which works like the wire rope gun, and the crane will be used to lift the cars and the scenic ride. Some of these cars will be weighing somewhere around 2 tons. So it was a bit heavy for a few men to put them on, so they used the crane attachment on the back of the engine. Many years ago, we used to work through now at the great course of steam fair, putting steam rocks up using the piece crane on the back of the engine. Here's Richard. We haven't seen Richard for a long time. He's the McLaren. And he's got a couple of hitchhikers who see him going around. Now Richard's a man that uses his engine. I think he did that around some cash though, but he did nothing but getting on his finisher and driving 20 or 30 miles per hour. Now we're getting a bit of congestion. I think we've got a congestion problem. Here's another one of these Fowler tractors. Named Firefly. His own, I don't know who owned it in its working day, but his reservation is owned by George Hawkins, but just down the road from here. But George sold it and regretted it. And then got a chance to bring it back, so it's now come back to Cornwall and is owned by his grandson, Robert. That one usually goes around with Showman's fittings on. But recently it's had a lot of boiler work and a lot of maintenance to it, and so it's appearing without the Showman fitting. Probably more like what it was like in its working day. Well, I see no sign of Onward at the moment. On the way. We haven't got the largest of wings here at this rally, so it is a little bit tight to put all these engines in. They are not the most maneuverable of the vehicles, especially the steam rollers. The modern steam rollers do not have a differential, where if they have a differential, one rear wheel can turn at different speed to the other one. So that doesn't happen, so it's very difficult to steer a steam roller. So they might have a bit of a problem getting into their place. Here comes a lovely girl, single track compound. So that's a bit confusing, isn't it, when I said some engines are single cylinders and others are compound. Single crank compound is a compound engine that's only got one motor. You will see that the high pressure cylinder is diagonally on top of the low one, so it's got a very funny shaped cylinder block. So all the advantages of the compound, but the other advantages is it hasn't got so many moving parts. Here's a fairly local engine coming around, Cornishman. And another local engine, you'll know it by the AF registration mark. This one is a compound agricultural engine, and it was owned by Dingles. Dingles were a rather large engine owning firm from Stoke-Chelmsford. They were more involved in the road making business. I said that the rollers are very hard to turn. This one should be, because it's a differential.
You're rubbing this motorbox door, eh? You're rubbing the floor.
Down the photographer, but he's got no chance of getting into the parking spot. Where he's going, I have no idea. Now here's the one everybody's been talking about. It's number one in your program, and it's called Onward. Now Onward is a kind of Showman engine, and what's known as a superliner. It was Fowler's last ditch attempt to keep steam alive on the railroad. And they built 4 single-line engines, known as Onward, King Carnival, Supreme, and the Lion. Now all of the engines except Onward survived into preservation. Onward was cut up. So this engine going around today is a faithful replica of Onward, built from the original drawing. Very powerful engine. And remember I said something about the spring on the back of the engine to lift the cars on the scenic ride? Well, as Onward goes around, it sees 2 pulleys on the back. They were used with the crane for the scenic ride. Another engine is returned to the Cornish soil. Another engine aboard the Showman style tractor. I say Showman style because it's started life as a roller. It was owned in preservation by a chap called Bill Lord, who founded Hewitt Water Engineering. Mike James, who now owns Hewitt Water Engineering, went for sale in Devon last November. Then we had about 6 inches of snow, and he bought the engine to bring back to Cornwall. I think Warspite was just sneaked past me without me seeing it. Warspite is an agricultural engine built by Wallace and Stevens at Basingstoke in Hampshire. Owned presently by James Rock. It's subject to a great deal of restoration at Sam Henry's Engineering in Boylan at Summercourt. Onward will be joining Challenger and this 2 tractors this evening down at the beer tent generating. Gives a lovely atmosphere outside the beer tent. I do believe they've got Johnny Cowling in the beer tent providing the entertainment. And I'm sure if you didn't really want to go into the tent, there's going to be plenty of entertainment outside. the original Onward was commissioned by Sammy from Hyde in Cheshire. He owned a few fairground rides. Now when this engine pulled the rides from fairground to fairground, it would not be uncommon for it to have maybe 7 or 8 trailers on behind it. It could comfortably pull between 40 and 50 tons or even more. One of the things causing a big traffic jam, because back in the 20s and 30s there was very little traffic on the road, so the engine had plenty of room to go on its way. A little bit different now when we take our engines on the road, far more traffic. And a lot of people choose not to drive them to and fro for rallies, but to use a low loader. The James is having a little bit of a problem here. If it's a single cylinder engine, you've got to have the crankshaft in the right position so that you can take off. There we go. Also, if you're in the high wheel, it takes a little bit more getting going than if you're in bottom gear. Here's a lovely panoramic Cornwall from Farmer's Friend. I've actually been working on the frac machine when this engine was powering it. In the 70s, my uncle was a thatcher, and he would bring corn to the thatching reed, go around the farms cutting it with the binder, and the crushing machine or wheat thrower owner would come along and set up. On all 2 days, we would use a steam engine to drive the reed coner purely for old time sake, shall we say. And the Farmer's Friend has done that. There's always room for one more. So there's the images coming out from the trailer with a beer barrel on the back. Contrary to your thoughts, it probably isn't from a beer. But in his case, decided to do anything in the ship because he knew exactly where the problems was going. Farmer's Friend, the powder coming along, and as it comes towards you, look on the top of the barrel at the front, and you can see powder's envelope or crest of the new hours. So let the engine and all credit to Jeff, because he keeps both of his engines. He also has a power engine to keep both of them. Well, I'm not sure when this engine can go around the Marshall, come lower, I think. Wherever going to be the last one. So you take it all over. On the middle, coming in. Well, you know, this and whistle up, but being the last to come in the ring, it's a bit of a show stealer, isn't it? There is a more modern roller coming in. I said earlier that most of the roads were made of stone when the basic steam rollers had their heyday. But when stone roads moved over to tar, the old rollers weren't very useful because when they went from forward to backwards, they had to stop before they did it, and they left a ridge in the tar. So this roller that's coming in now is a Wallace & Stevens advanced roller. You'll see that it hasn't got a great big hefty flywheel that you've got to stop before you change direction. And this one has got an almost instantaneous reverse, and it is used to run on the more modern roads. Fast little roller, and the wheels or the rollers in the back, they can be pulled with water to get more weight. And the roads can be cambered as well to suit the road surface. So there we are, our sport and the Wallace Advance. And it's very much a team effort driving the engine. One man does the driving and operating the controls, and the second man is the steersman. They've got to work together, and the big Showmans, the steersman cannot see one side of the engine, and the driver cannot see the steersman side of the engine. So they must work together. Nice to have some dry conditions for this year's parade. I think it was last year, it wasn't quite so dry in the ring. The traction with some of these engines is a little bit at a premium, especially if it's a steam roller. So we had a lot of fun last year with engines getting stuck, engines running out of steam because they got stuck. But it all added to the atmosphere. Of course, these engines run on coal, and the quality of the coal makes a great difference to how well you can drive your engine. Now, we did have a first-rate supply of coal from a quarry called Threshing in Wales, but that is no longer available to us, so we have to get our coal from other places. Well, it wasn't green to have coal from Wales, so we've got to get our coal from abroad now, from Poland, South Africa, places like that. Of course, with all the transport costs, make the coal much more expensive. As engine owners, if we want to keep running our engines, we have no other choice. The engine going out, John Murphy's Crown Peacock, is called the Admiral. And as I said earlier, it's a miniature version of John Murphy's two founder engines called Renown and Repulse. They had consequent engine numbers and also consequential registrations as well. And they came out with no brass fittings, and they came out in that blue colour. Very unusual to see Showman's engines painted blue. One in particular that's now hit the rally gears again after a long restoration is a Barrel scenic engine called XS, which in its working day was owned by GTQB of Doncaster. Mostly Showman's engines from Barrels come out in the crimson maroon colour. Crimson Lake, proper name. The ring is sorting itself out now. So once again, thank you to the engine owners for bringing their speeds into the ring. And we'll complete the exercise tomorrow. So I will sign off now, and then the motorbike commentator will take over. So, see some of you tomorrow perhaps. So the more water the engine could carry, the further it could go before it needed to fill up again. So hence the belly tank. Here's the first of our full-size engines, the Camborne compound engine named Cracker, owned by Threshing. Now this is a 3-speed engine, which is unusual for this size of engine. Its main job in its working day was driving a thrashing machine. Another compound engine. The compound means it's got 2 cylinders. And this is about a demonstration type engine. Then the typical agricultural engine. When it drew the thrashing machine, the belt was attached from its flywheel, as it was spinning around inside the back wheel, and that belt would go to the drive thing on the thrashing machine to help power the thrasher. Now when the engine is thrashing, it's very important to keep the thrashing machine running at the right speed. And when the thrashing machine is empty, i.e. nothing going through it, the speed might increase. But when you put the corn through the thrashing machine, the extra load will decrease the speed of the thrashing machine. And if the thrashing doesn't run at constant speed, it's not very efficient. So the engine is equipped with a set of governors to regulate the speed of the thrashing machine. Now this next one coming in is now in the guise of a Showman engine. It's Garrett from the long shot work. It started life as a steam rotor, and in preservation we have the Showman fittings attached to it, so it comes out as a Showman. That one's followed by McLaren miniature, owned by Richard. Richard is no stranger to using this engine. He drives miles and miles on the road doing different rides. Now the next one coming along, we've got a room of steam coming out from behind the chimney. Now this is the safety valve in operation. All of these engines work at a particular boiler pressure. And if we've got too bright a fire, and the boiler pressure increases above the set pressure, the waste steam is ejected through the safety valves. And of course, the higher the pressure, the better the engine works. So in the working day, some of the drivers will adjust the settings of the safety valves. They might even hang weights on them to get higher pressure and work the engine better. But of course, that's compromising safety. And one or two accidents will occur with the safety valves being set at the time. So that's why it's got to be there 2 hours before work starts. And at the end of the day, you just can't switch it off. You've got to write it down. We call it visits a day. So put the water in the boiler and just look after the engine for 40 hours before you can go home. So you can imagine their delight when the tractor came along. All you had to do was swing a handle, and within 5 or 10 minutes you're up to its temperature and able to go to work. And when you've got a tractor, you don't have to keep carrying pouring water to it. When one of these engines were thrashing, it would take one man all his time with a horse's cart to bring water and coal to the engine. Here's one of our country supporters here with a Poland road locomotive called Standing It Now. It's being driven by our local boiler inspector, Dave Youngers, who's got this engine on loan from Mr. Mike Wilkinson from Blackpool. I think this is the first Marshall engine to come into the room. Now this one started its working days in Devon. It's got a Devon registration, TA. So how fast do these engines go on the road? Well, I'm sure lots of you know that it's not very fast when you're stuck behind them and in the queue in about 3 miles. We do try our best and pull over whenever we can to let you pass. But yes, they are slow. They have 2 speeds generally, and that's slow and dead slow. Some of the road locomotives, as we said before, have got 3 speeds, and 1 or 2 have even been fitted with the 4th speed. So that is very rare. Are you safe around the ring with all these engines with boilers up to 200 pounds per square inch of steam? Well, you are, because every engine is rigorously checked every year. It has to have a boiler inspection. The thicknesses of the boiler plates are tested with ultrasound measurements, and the boiler inspector makes sure everything is okay. We've already said about the safety valves, which go off when the boiler pressure gets too high. They are fitted with another safety feature called a movable plug. Now, if the water level gets a little bit too low, that's going to cause damage to the boiler. So in the top of the firebox is a plug which has a lead centered to it. Generally speaking, that plug is okay if it's covered with water. But if the water goes down, it gets exposed, safe around the ring. Now it's a place to buy rollers. It's not in the region of green, but it is an Aveling important with lots of space. It's a compound 2-cylinder roller. I think it's going to need some real ones on the front. We've seen that happen with the full-size engine when they pull a wheelie, and sometimes if they haven't got the locking pin in the front axle and the birch bracket, I have seen an engine do a rear, rise up in the air and come down and miss its wheels. So we've had to get the train engine in, lift up the front and put the front axle back again. Earlier on, none of these engines have or have a commercial like now. Some of the steamrollers do occasionally some welding work, and if you go around to a lot of steam rallies, the majority of the engines you see will be steamrollers because they did have a longer lifespan on work, shall we say, than any of the actual engines. It was not uncommon to see a steamroller at work in the late 1960s. Now this is a beast coming in, weighing in somewhere around the 20-ton mark. Huge engine, horsepower, the power of steam power everything needs. It's a you'll see that the triple front and the back wheel. There's a big winding drum, probably about 500 to 600 yards of thick steel rope on it, steel wire rope, and this one's job would be to stay at one end of the field, while another one would be at the other end, and using their wire ropes, they would continuously pull up and forward a reversible plough. When you consider that ploughing until the ploughing engine came along was done by horses, the speed that the ploughing engines could do the job was incredible. and they worked from daylight till dusk. They were paid by the acre, so the more they did, the more they earned. Independent old marshals coming in, from Onward, from Green Hammer, as you say down there, going to have it. Two-cylinder agricultural engine, still on its straight wheels. The hind wheels are as they were when this engine came out of the factory. A lot of engines these days have fitted tractor grips to the battery and to give them extra grip and a softer ride on the road. This engine going around hasn't got any springing on it at all. Agricultural engine coming in the room now, from Ross and Stevens, from Basingstoke, New Hampshire. This one is called Warstock, and it's owned by James Watt, and it's sporting those agri tyres that I was mentioning earlier on. They are definitely a boon in a rally field. There are a lot of other engines that get stuck. This one will probably get through. There's another one from Stevens, completely different. Both are known as a joyous. Now, the early rollers were done to rolling roads that were built with stone, but the bounce roller was built specifically for Parliament Avenue. The problem with the old rollers is they took a while from going from forward to backwards. And doing so, they had to stop, and that would leave a ridge in the top, which was totally unacceptable. So the beauty of the walls and backs is it's got almost instantaneous reverse. So it stops going forward and it's almost immediately going backwards. And that stops that ridge in the tarmac. The rear rolls, you can add ballast to them by filling them up with water. So that one is for Amy. It's owned by Lord Betty. My road should be coming in the ring at some stage. Back to the deck, I didn't see a bit striker with a very healthy fire. So I'm hoping that it does get here. There's another motor coming in. This one's a Fowler. Another one from the steam tower, indeed. Fowler super motor. This one's called the late motor still. Probably weighing in around the 10-ton mark. One of these rollers were also used on the farmer roads, and they were fitted with car springs. That's a very special engine coming in now. It's owned in this working day by one of our local contractors. Camborne Trevithick, a large fleet of engines, mainly rollers. This one, an Aveling and Porter agricultural engine, that was in their fleet as well. Got a lovely KF Cornish number on the front. It's owned and driven at the moment by Dave Knott. Dave keeps the engine down here for the time being, but he lives off country somewhere. We'll probably get into that later on. Again, that one's fitted with those agri tracks. Makes a big difference to getting in and out of the field. So in the days before they had average traps, what could they do? Some of these engines you can put straight lugs onto them, which are like metal pins. You bolt onto the wheels in times of muddy situations. A lot of these engines would be going thrashing machines going around on farms to do the thrashing. And in the farmyard or the mill before, it could be quite muddy. So the use of springs or spuds on the back wheels would make gripping a lot easier. But sometimes that wasn't enough either to pull the machine in. So behind the left-hand rear wheel, there is a wire rope drum, so the engine can actually drive itself into the farmyard. It may not get stuck if it hasn't got a rope behind it. It can position itself, run out the wire rope, and then winch the thrashing machine into position. Lovely shot from this single cylinder plate. We're getting the two engines in the lead. There are still several more outside. We have 3 or 4 rotors in already, so they haven't had any trouble really slipping around. Most of these steam rollers haven't got the differential you have in the back axle of your car. The differential allows the wheels to turn at different speeds. As you go around the corner, the outside wheel would have to turn faster than the inside wheel. So that is the back of the differential. So without the differential, both wheels on the steam roller turn at the same speed. So that makes it very awkward to turn corners. Some mates are even worse than others for turning the corner without putting 2 pins in. So what we can do, if we're going to go around a hard corner, we can pull out the drive pin on one side. That basically gets that wheel free-wheel. And that allows you to go the corner. Something's coming in, I can't quite see it yet. Right. Number 1 in the program, I think this one is. Another tower on the Jubilee line. It was 1,000 last inch of steam engines in the days when steam engines were only going to be played out. It's a fairground engine, it's a service engine. Of the silver line called Onward. It was built, I can't quite remember who built it at the moment, Dundee built it, and it was built from the plans for the other super line, so it's totally authentic. It's owned by the Showman family, and the job of the Showman's engine was purely to deal with the work of the fairground. The engine would pull the loads of the rides from showground to showground. It would probably have 5 or 6 trailers on behind it. And then when the trailers get into the show yard, they have to build a ride up. So some of these rides, especially what we call the scenic rides, the cars on these rides weigh somewhere around 1.5 to 2 tons. So as that big engine comes around, if it comes around again, you'll notice on the back there is a couple of pulleys. Now these pulleys can be used in conjunction with a crane pole on the back of the engine, the wire rope that's behind the left-hand rear wheel, the winch rope can be routed around the pulleys, up the crane pole, and it can be used to put the sealed cars onto the track. Years ago at the Great Dorset Steam Fair, which sadly is no longer, I have watched a founder of Showman's called Renown with its piece crane build up Harry Lee's steam yachts, and that was just as it would have been in its working day. This is quite a heavy engine, and weighing in at about 18 tons or maybe even heavier. The old showman said if you had a Fowler engine, you'd get to the gate on the fairground and that's as far as you'd go. And you would get stuck because they are so heavy. Where did this one sneak into? A little Fowler going around in front of me now. It's a Fowler Tiger tractor, and it is in its tractor form. Usually you will see this one with Showman's fittings on. Didn't have them in its working day. So as it's going around now, it is as it was in the working day. Tractors were built partially in response to legislation. The bigger engines, they're restricted on weight, they're restricted on speed. And many years ago, you had to have a man with a red flag walking in front of the engines. But for sure, you would have to have two men driving, one steering and one driving. The tractors, if they weighed underneath 5 tons, they could be operated by one man, hence saving the wages of another man. That's the reason for the tractors. They had a fair turn of steam as well. Well, that steam roller was just sneaked in. Another Aveling roller called Dolly Grey, owned by Deers and Jules Lewin. Again, another Devon steam roller with its registration TA. Most of the steam rollers you've seen will be Aveling and Porters, generally in green colour. And the reason being is that Aveling and Porter were the most prolific steam roller manufacturer. In fact, they made more steam rollers than all of the other manufacturers put together. There's Firefly going into position. Cinema, and I can see the serious lady from my interview here. Dolly is real English. Not yet, engine drivers. If it's a London bus, what colour is it usually? It's pink. And if it's a steamroller, what colour is it usually? It's green. And here comes another one of those green ones. Aveling and Porto. It's a recent acquisition by the owner to the book. Leader has been for many years with miniature engines, so he's now ventured into the full-size arena. Some engines have canopy, some don't. There are fors and against for both situations. If you haven't got a canopy, you've got no protection from the weather at all. You've also got all the soot from the chimney raining down on your head. But if you haven't got a canopy, at least you can see the chimney. And looking at the chimney and the colour of the smoke can tell you a lot about what's happening in the fire. You can also see the safety valves, and you can tell when they are blowing off as well. Challenger going around is a 2-speed engine. A lot of the later Showman's engines are 3-speed. Again, Brian, the owner, has fitted quad backs to it. We took this engine out for Christmas lights switch on in November last year, and it got rather muddy. By then, we'd only had one of the quad tracks on, and we did get a little bit stuck. So we took a couple of Toyota pickups on the front, gave us a tow, and we managed to get out. But had we had the second tyres on, we wouldn't have had any problem with it. Oh, we've got a good mix of mates. We've seen barrels going through, we've seen Avelings, Fowlers, Watson Stevens. We've seen a Foster in miniature, not in full size. Just thinking about Foster engines makes you think of this year's rally for the West of England Steam Engine Society. It is their 70th anniversary. We have a road run, and we are hopefully getting a Foster engine down at our rally this year. There is an engine you don't see out very often. A little garage tractor called Leslie, owned by Cornish Savage. One of these tractors that are fair turn of steam on the road, it can be driven by one man. Always easier though if you've got two in the very small tractor. This engine is one of the few engines that have from John O'Groats to Land's End in its current owner's custodianship. The pole wagon is basically two sets of wheels joined together by a pole in the middle. And the ground timber can be rolled up skids using the wire rope on the engine. A little bit easier if you've got two engines with wire ropes, but it can be done with one. And the wire ropes more buckle the timber up onto the trailer. There's a local engine now going past with that AF number. It's called at the moment, so it's wide. was originally owned by the Otter and Steam Threshing Company from Aveling Station at the other side of Camborne. And in its preservation days, it underwent the Showman's transformation. That then it was called Old England. But it's now owned by the Simmons family, and it's back in its... But it is an agricultural engine, although the size of it might make you think that it's a road loco. Right, here's one I know nothing about. So this engine going around now, another engine called Hercules. Now, Hercules is owned in its working day by Buntons of Highbridge in Somerset. They own the replica rollers, and in its first ownership and preservation, it was bought by, I think who it was now. It'll come to me in a minute. And this guy owned the roller from 1967 up until around 2000. And the girl steering it is Isabel, but the other lady sat in the horizontal is the first owner in preservation's daughter. Colin Embry was the man who owned it first of all, and that's Lisa on the tender. So after all these years, she's been reunited with the roller that she spent many years as a child in the horizontal. Shall I say, how would you call it? Its rescuers had a long weekend with a no-loader, going up country, not quite sure where, and they found this roller still on the original no-loader that was parked in the farm for many, many years. They had to bring up the roll, get it off the no-loader, and bring it home. So they did arrive late on a Sunday evening with the roller, being very tired and worn out. And that's not just the roller, that's the venue as well. So it's back in steam and owned by Tom Morton. So I think we must be getting near the end of the engines coming into the ring at the moment. I may be surprised and another one kicks in. We've got quite a small ring here today, so manoeuvring these take a bit of doing. We've certainly got a bit of steam on my engine, the safety valves are blowing. I did need all that it's not a lot of steam to get into the ring. And he's driving it, and that's stopping him coming in into the steam frame that is Aveling roller, that is a motor roller. The motor roller was a follow-on from the steam roller. He usually puts in the steam roller in the steam frame, but what Cornwall is probably doing it. this roller going around to my right in the ring, going uphill. This one is fitted with a stereotypical on behind the right hand rear roll. Now, the rollers would use this stereotypical. There's two pointed chisels that can be lowered into the road. And remember that the roads were built of stone. These chisels would chisel up the road, loosen up all the stones, and then it can be levelled out by men with big shovels and rakes, and then the roller can then roll it back tight again. So engine drivers, if you can hear me, give it to your all with the whistles. Start the whistles. Ask you anything on the road. Yeah, we won't go to the locker.
Last time we knew Cornish, the elders of Canada.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
what's that? All right. Oh, it's plenty of time in the ring again, isn't it? Not much to do. Yeah. Well, nice to see you again after all the years.
Quite a coincidence. I'm a kid home because he was here yesterday. Well, then he said, "It's Alan." Forget that. He says,
Who said that?
the chap.
Oh, right.
I'm sorry, I gave that away. Yeah.
Yep. The original one like that, sold maybe 10 years ago. When you were feet as well.
I feel like
No, like